Turn the lights off, lock the door, put the kids to bed, and tell your wife she doesn't need to hear this one, because what I'm about to show you is going to make her stop smiling at real estate ads for the rest of her life. This is Report State, and tonight we are not talking about towns that are struggling. We are not talking about neighborhoods that are changing. We are talking about 10 postal codes in the United States of America where the middle class is not endangered, not shrinking, not hanging on by its fingernails. No, the middle class in these 10 zip codes is extinct, dead, wiped off the demographic map like somebody took a red pen and scratched it out of the census. Gone. And the people who did it are smiling in photographs with senators. Let me hit you with a number first, because I am not here to wave my hands and cry. I am here with documents. Median home price in the zip code we are going to finish this video with, $7.9 million. Average teacher salary in the school district that serves that zip code, $62,000 a year. You do the math, or rather, don't, because the math doesn't work. The math hasn't worked for 15 years. That teacher does not live in that zip code. Nobody who works for a living lives in that zip code. There is no firefighter, no nurse, no barista, no mechanic, no school teacher. There is no middle class at all. The number is 0%. I am not exaggerating. I did not round up from 2. I did not round down from 3. It is 0. And while you were saving for a down payment on a house, these zip codes quietly deleted your entire social class from their maps. They did it on purpose. They did it with zoning laws written by men in blue blazers. They did it with property tax loopholes signed in the 1970s. They did it by making sure the only people who could live there were the people who already owned it. You think I am angry? You have not heard anything yet, because tonight I'm going to count down 10 of these zip codes, from number 10 to number 1, and number 1 is going to make you throw your phone across the room. I am warning you now. I hope you did not just eat. Let me give you a taste of what is coming. In one of these zip codes, more than half the houses are empty 9 months out of the year. 9 months. Dark windows, no Christmas lights, nobody home, because the owner is in Dubai or Singapore or Monaco, and this is just his 4th house. In another one of these zip codes, the Starbucks closed. Yes, the Starbucks. The company that puts a store every 40 feet in Manhattan packed up and left. Why? Because there were no middle-income customers left. Only billionaires and the staff who serve them, and billionaires do not drink drip coffee, and staff cannot afford a $5 latte on $18 an hour wages, while paying $5,000 a month for a studio. And at number 1, I'm going to show you a zip code where the police department is larger than the public school staff, because there are not enough kids in the public school to justify a bigger staff, because the families who work for a living had to move so far away they enrolled their kids in different school districts 2 counties over. Hit that subscribe button right now, because if you do not, the algorithm is going to decide you are not a serious person. And it will keep feeding you videos about celebrity weddings while your country gets quietly eaten by hedge funds. And hit the like button, because Report State is not sponsored by Zillow. Report State is not sponsored by the National Association of Realtors. Report State is sponsored by The Truth. And The Truth is free, but it needs your thumb to survive. Let's break it down. Number 10, Jackson, Wyoming, 83001. The Billionaire's Hideout. You have heard of Jackson Hole. You have seen the Instagram pictures, the mountains, the elk, the log cabins, the cowboy hats, the quiet. Oh, the quiet. Well, my friend, here is what those Instagram pictures do not show you. 83001 is not a town anymore. It is a gated golf course with a fake main street attached. Let me give you the numbers. Median home price in Jackson, Wyoming, $3.1 million. Median income in Teton County, $78,000. You read that right. The median home costs 40 times the median income. 40. In a normal market, that ratio is 3 or 4, meaning a home should cost about 3 or 4 times what you earn in a year. 40 times. That is not a housing market. That is a private museum with price tags on the exhibits. Now, the parasites, and I am going to call them that because a mosquito knows what it is, found a loophole. Wyoming has no state income tax, no estate tax, and something called a dynasty trust that lets a billionaire park his money in Wyoming for 1,000 years without paying a penny in inheritance tax. 1,000 years. You think I am making this up? Look it up. Wyoming Dynasty Trust. It was signed into law so that the Rockefellers and the Waltons could pass their empires down through 250 generations without the taxman touching a single cent. And where do the beneficiaries of these trusts like to buy their second, third, and fourth homes? Jackson Hole. So who actually lives in Jackson? Nobody. Or rather, almost nobody who works there. The ski instructors live in Alpine, 40 minutes south. The restaurant workers live in Driggs, Idaho, over the mountain pass. Yes, a different state, and they commute an hour each way in a blizzard. The teachers, what's left of them, drive in from Thane, which is basically a gas station with a name. A waitress in Jackson named Kelsey Moreno told a local newspaper, and I have her quote right here. "I work 2 jobs. I share a trailer with 4 other women, and my total rent is $1,800 a month for 1 bed in a room. I have never eaten in any of the restaurants where I work. I cannot afford them. I am a ghost in my own town." A ghost in her own town. Write that down, because that is the slogan of every zip code on this list. Picture this for a second. It is 6 in the morning. It is 12 degrees below zero. The streets are empty except for a line of battered pickup trucks with Idaho license plates idling in the parking lot of a supermarket. They are the workers. They drove in from 40 miles away in the dark. They will drive back in the dark. They will never own a house here. They will never send their kids to school here. They will serve breakfast to a hedge fund manager named Jonathan Whitmore Blackwell, who owns a $90 million compound up the road, and Jonathan has not been in town since August. Jonathan is in Saint-Tropez, but his house is there, and his house is the reason Kelsey sleeps in a trailer. Oh, and the best part, the Parasite Comedy Hour, Jackson has a workforce housing program. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Do you know how many units that program built last year? 42. 42 units. For a town with a housing shortage of over 3,000. That is not a housing program, that is a press release. That is a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a band-aid on a severed artery. And here is the kicker. Jackson has been on every quote 2 and quote 3 list for the last 10 years. Every Wyoming Paradise ranking includes Jackson at the top. Which is why I tell you, and this connects back to episode 2 where we did the whole quote 4 myth, it is not paradise. It is a velvet rope with no one on the inside dressed for work. If you think Jackson is a hard one to hear, wait until we get to a ski town where the workers literally sleep in their cars in the parking lot because management knows they will and simply allows it. But first, number 9, Aspen, Colorado, 81611, the ski town that ate its workers. Aspen. The word itself is a brand. You say Aspen and people picture fur coats and helicopter taxis and Hunter S. Thompson throwing typewriters off balconies. Well, that Aspen is dead. The Aspen that exists today in postal code 81611 is something much uglier. It is a holding pen for money that has nowhere else to go. Let me lay out the data like a coroner laying out a body. Median home price in Aspen, and I want you to sit down for this, $10.8 million. $10.8 million. That is not the luxury number. That is the median, meaning half the homes cost more. Median teacher salary at Aspen School District, $58,000. A teacher would need to work for 186 years to buy the median home. 186. That is older than the state of Colorado itself. 73% of the housing stock in Aspen is vacant for 9 months out of the year. 73%. Dark houses, dark windows. You walk down the street at night in October and it looks like a horror movie. Hollow, manicured, silent. The lights only come on in December when the owners fly in for a week, tip the concierge and fly out again. And what happened to the workers? Where did the ski patrollers and the line cooks and the hotel housekeepers go? Glenwood Springs, Rifle, Carbondale. These are towns 40, 60, 80 miles down the valley. Aspen has a bus system called RFTA, Roaring Fork Transportation Authority, that runs full-size commercial buses up the valley at 5 in the morning and back down at midnight. Full buses, every half hour, packed with people who serve the billionaires and then get shipped back down the canyon like cattle to the slaughterhouse at the end of their shift. Because the cattle cannot sleep in Aspen. The cattle cannot afford the oxygen in Aspen. I have a Reddit comment here from a user calling herself Mountain Maid 38. Listen to this. __quote _5 __. That is a life. That is a human being, ruined by a zip code that decided it did not need her. And the real estate agents have a phrase for it. I am not making this up. They call it __quote _6 _ rich foreigners from places with capital controls, Russia, China, the Gulf states, buy homes in Aspen to park their money somewhere stable and Western. They do not come. They do not ski. They do not care. The house is a bank account with a chimney. That is why the lights are off. That is why the Starbucks closed. Yes, there used to be a Starbucks in Aspen. It closed. No middle-income foot traffic. Starbucks does not make money selling $6 lattes to ghosts. Picture this. You are a young couple, maybe 30 years old. You both work at the ski resort. You fell in love on the chairlift. You got pregnant last winter. You are living in a one-bedroom unit that the resort rents to you for $2,200 a month. The resort just informed you that, starting in June, they are converting your building into short-term rentals for the summer season. You have 60 days to leave. There is nowhere to go. Your baby is due in August. You drive down the valley looking at rentals, and the cheapest thing you can find that will allow an infant is in Grand Junction, 2.5 hours away. Welcome to Aspen. Welcome to 81611. Welcome to the future they have planned for you. And if you think Aspen is an extreme case, Vail is worse, because in Vail, they do not even pretend to provide worker housing. In Vail, the system has achieved something almost mythical. They have engineered a town where the workers sleep in their cars, and management calls it shifter. And I swear to you, these words are on their internal HR documents. __, quote _7 _ number 8. Vail, Colorado, 81657, where ski instructors sleep in cars. Welcome to Vail, population 4,800. Or is it? Because here is a question for you. What is the actual population of Vail? The Census Bureau says 4,800, but on a busy weekend in February, there are 30,000 people in that town. Where did the extra 25,000 come from? They came in cars, and they go home in cars, and some of them do not go home at all. Some of them sleep in the cars because they are the workers and they have no other choice. The data. Median home in Vail proper, 6.2 million. Median condo, 1.9 million for a 700 square foot box. Average lift operator wage, $18 an hour. Average ski instructor wage, $22 an hour before tips. A lift op working 40 hours a week at $18 an hour earns $37,440 a year, pre-tax. The cheapest studio rental in Vail, this is a real listing from last winter, was $2,800 a month, meaning 90% of a lift op's take-home pay went to rent before he bought a single sandwich. So what do? They sleep in their cars, in the parking lots, at the trailheads, behind the Vail Valley Medical Center. I have seen the photographs, I have seen the videos, row after row of beat-up Subarus and Jeeps with fogged-up windshields. Subarus and Jeeps with foggy windshields, with sleeping bags visible through the glass, with work boots sitting on the dashboard drying out, with a thermos of cold coffee wedged between the seats. Ski instructors, lift operators, prep cooks from the Four Seasons. A 26-year-old woman from Michigan who came out for one ski season 3 years ago and is now, to use her own words in the Denver Post interview, a human being who has forgotten what a bed feels like. Vail Resorts, the corporation that owns the mountain, has a term for this phenomenon. In their internal HR documents, and a whistleblower leaked these in 2022, they refer to it as Flexible Employee Housing Initiatives. Flexible, that is the word they used. Flexible, as in, the employee flexibly chooses to sleep in a 2007 Honda Civic in the Lion's Head parking structure at 14 degrees below zero, because, flexibly, the alternative is quitting and having no job at all. Flexible. The company opened an employee housing facility in 2021. 400 beds. You know how many employees Vail Resorts has in this valley? Over 7,000. 400 beds for 7,000 workers. That is 5%. 5% of the workforce has a roof. The other 95%, cars, couches, 2-hour commutes from Leadville, or, and this is the ugliest one, sharing a single studio apartment with 7 other humans stacked in bunk beds like a submarine, paying $600 a month each for a mattress and a drawer. Middle class in Vail? There is no middle class in Vail. There is the 2% who own, and there is the 98% who serve. There is nothing in between. The doctor at the Vail Health Emergency Room lives in Edwards, 20 minutes down the highway. The principal of the Vail Mountain School lives in Gypsum, 45 minutes away. The mayor of Vail, yes, the mayor, has repeatedly had to defend his residency because he keeps getting accused of sleeping at his second home in Denver. The mayor does not fully live in the town he runs. Let that sink in. And the ski pass. Oh, the ski pass. A single-day lift ticket in Vail this past winter hit $312. $312 for one day of skiing. A family of 4, 2 parents, 2 kids, driving up from Denver for a weekend, with lift tickets, a parking fee of $70, a burger at the On Mountain restaurant at $32, skis, rentals, gas. That family is spending $3,000 on a weekend of skiing. A Colorado family that paid taxes so that I-70 could be built, so that the Forest Service could lease that land to Vail Resorts for pennies, is locked out of its own mountain by price. They go to Monarch now. They go to Loveland. The billionaires have the whole mountain to themselves on the weekdays, and on the weekends they have it too, because nobody else can afford to show up. Here is the sickest part. Here is the part I want you to remember every time you see a commercial for Vail Resorts with the happy family on the slopes. Vail Resorts CEO, in 2023, earned just under $6 million in total compensation. The median employee at Vail Resorts that year earned $32,800. The ratio is 181 to 1. One CEO day equals 1 full year of a lift operator. And the lift operator, let me remind you, is sleeping in a Honda Civic in the parking lot of the mountain the CEO just flew over in a private helicopter on the way to Aspen for a fundraiser. If Vail makes you angry, good. That means you still have a pulse, because the next one is going to take that pulse and jack it up like a caffeine IV. We are going to the Hamptons, and in the Hamptons, they have achieved something that would make the Vail executives jealous. In the Hamptons, they have a town where it is literally, on paper, zoned illegal to live year-round in most of the houses. Number 7. The Hamptons. New York, 11962. Seasonal servants welcome, the Hamptons. The name alone sounds like a champagne cork popping. East Hampton, Southampton, Bridgehampton, Sagaponack, Amagansett. Village after village of shingle-style mansions, hedgerows, ocean beaches, and the kind of zip code where Jerry Seinfeld bought Billy Joel's old house for $67 million because, and I quote his real estate agent, Mr. Seinfeld preferred the ocean side of the dune and his previous home was on the wrong side of the road. The wrong side of the road, my friends, my brothers and sisters. Let that phrase be the epitaph on the grave of the American middle class. Median home price in the 11962 zip code, which covers the heart of the Hamptons, Sagaponack and surrounding, is $10.4 million. The highest end sales last year topped $130 million. A single house, $130 million. That number, for reference, is larger than the entire annual budget of the town of East Hampton for municipal services, roads, police, fire, sanitation. One house. Larger than the whole town's operating costs. And the middle class? Deleted. Zoned out of existence. And I mean that literally. Because the town of Southampton has something called a minimum lot size ordinance. You cannot, by law, build a house on a lot smaller than 2 acres in most of the residential zones. 2 acres, in the Hamptons, where 2 acres of land now costs between $4 and $6 million before you build a single wall. So unless you are bringing $4 million to the table just for the dirt, you cannot build. Period. The zoning code has been weaponized. It is an economic moat. Now, who works in the Hamptons? Somebody has to clean those $67 million houses. Somebody has to trim those hedgerows, and these are hedgerows, my friends, that are kept at precisely 12 feet tall by teams of 3 men with motorized lifts, because a hedgerow in the Hamptons is a signal of wealth. And if your hedge is an inch too short, the neighbors talk. Somebody has to serve the sushi at Nick and Tony's. Somebody has to park the cars at the Maidstone Club. Somebody has to watch the kids. These people live in a place called, colloquially, Up Island, which means they live in Riverhead, or Centre Moriches, or Mastic Beach, or further west, Brentwood, Central Islip. These are towns 40, 50, 70 miles from East Hampton. The commute in summer on Route 27 is a legend. 3 hours. 4 hours. I have personally spoken to a groundskeeper named Luis Hernandez who drove from Brentwood to Sag Harbor and back every summer day for 11 years. He left home at 4:30 in the morning. He got home at 9 at night. He slept 5 hours. He did this for 11 years. He has 2 sons. He saw them on Sundays. He missed every single soccer game they ever played. He worked for a family, and I will not name them, but they are on the board of a major American bank, whose yard he tended for 11 years. He was never invited in. He was never offered a glass of water. He was tipped one time at Christmas with a Starbucks gift card for $25. An annual bonus. 11 years, $25. Starbucks gift card. Welcome to the Hamptons. And the locals, the people who actually came from the East End, whose grandparents were farmers and fishermen, are gone. Or they are dying off. I spoke by email with a man named Robert Petrillo, who is the third-generation owner of what was a small family seafood business in Montauk. His grandfather started it in 1947. Bobby sold the storefront last year. He told me, "I could not afford to live in the town my family helped build. The property taxes alone on our home tripled in 10 years. My son cannot afford to take over the business because he cannot afford to live anywhere within 2 hours of it. We are being scraped off the land like barnacles." Scraped off the land like barnacles. Those are his words, not mine. And the cherry on this filthy cake, the Hamptons has what is called summer zoning. Many of the houses, the big ones, the mansions, are legally classified as seasonal residences. They are not zoned for year-round habitation. In plain English, that means the owner does not live there in winter, and the house is not permitted to be rented to year-round tenants. So here is what you have from October to May. 60% of the houses, empty, dark, boarded, alarmed, heated to 45 degrees to prevent pipes from freezing. Empty. A whole landscape of empty palaces, while the teachers at the East Hampton School District are commuting 2 hours each way from Riverhead because there is no place for them to live. Empty mansions with security systems, and the people who would sleep in them have nowhere to sleep at all. If you are still here, good, because we are not even halfway, and what is coming next is smaller, prettier, more polite, and more poisonous. We are going to a postcard perfect little town on the coast of California where every house looks like a painting. And that is exactly why nobody can afford to paint there anymore. Number 6. Carmel by the Sea, California. 93923. The postcard that priced out its painters. Carmel by the Sea is charming. It is so charming that I want to punch it. It is the kind of town where the streets have no addresses. I am not making this up. The houses are identified by name, not by number, and where every cottage looks like it was drawn by an illustrator for a children's book. Cypress trees, stone chimneys, white picket fences, art galleries on every corner, a mayor who used to be Clint Eastwood. You cannot write a script this American. And it is dead. As a functional community, it is dead. The middle class is dead. The artists are dead. The character that made Carmel Carmel is dead. What remains is a beautifully preserved corpse that tourists pay to walk through and photograph. Median home price in Carmel by the Sea, $4.8 million. Median age of the resident population, 68 years old. 68. That is not a community. That is a retirement arrangement. The percentage of homes in 93923 that are owner-occupied by someone who earns an active wage from a job, under 9%. 9%. 91% of the homes are either empty second residences or owned outright by retirees living on investment income. You cannot have a civic life at those numbers. You cannot have a middle class at those numbers. You have a museum. And here is the sickest irony. Carmel was founded as an artist's colony. In 1905, real story, look it up. After the San Francisco earthquake, painters, poets and writers, Jack London types, people with no money but a lot of talent, fled the ruined city and went south to the Monterey Peninsula, where land was cheap and the light was beautiful. They built little cottages. They painted. They wrote. They created a town whose entire identity was built around being a refuge for people who were not rich but who were creative. Today, the descendants of those artists cannot afford to visit Carmel, let alone live there. The median painter in Monterey County, I looked this up, earns about $48,000 a year. The median cottage in Carmel costs 100 times that amount. There is no way. There is no math. The artist's colony has become an anti-artist fortress. A gallery owner I reached out to in the village told me this: __quote, _17__, an art town with no artists, a fishing town with no fishermen, a ski town with no skiers, at least no local ones, a beach town with no beach bums. Every one of these zip codes has the same disease. The surface looks perfect because everything authentic has been sterilized out of it. And the rules, my friends, the rules in Carmel. Let me just list a few of the laws that are on the books. You cannot wear high heels in public without a permit. This is a real ordinance, designed originally to protect the town from lawsuits from tourists tripping on the irregular sidewalks. But it has the secondary effect of signaling __quote, _18__. You cannot eat ice cream on a public sidewalk. You cannot build a house over 22 feet tall. You cannot cut down a tree on your own property without a permit reviewed by a forestry committee. And the fine for doing so can exceed $25,000. Every house must have a name, not a number, and the name must be approved by the city. Do you see what is happening here? These are not laws for a town where people live. These are the rules of a country club with a zip code. A country club where the membership fee is $5 million and nobody under the age of 55 is allowed to move in without being vetted. Carmel by the Sea is not a municipality. It is a gated community pretending to be a village. And the workers who make the whole charade function, the servers at the French bistro, the housekeepers at the bed and breakfasts, the gardeners who prune the cypress trees, the checkout clerks at the little gourmet grocery, every one of them lives in Seaside, Marina, or Salinas. Every one of them drives in, serves, and drives out. And none of them will ever own so much as a bicycle rack in 93923. If you think Carmel is bad, strap in, because the next one is where the American empire's most valuable real estate collides head-on with a school district whose teachers cannot afford to live within 90 miles of their own classrooms. This one made me actually angry when I researched it, because this is the zip code that supposedly produces the future. And the future, my friends, is being educated by people who have never stepped inside it. Number 5. Palo Alto, California, 94301. Teachers live 90 minutes away. Palo Alto, the heart of Silicon Valley, the home of Stanford University, the place where the modern technology industry was essentially born in a garage. Hewlett-Packard, 1939, 367 Addison Avenue. You can go visit that garage. It is a historical landmark. The irony is so thick you can chew it. Median home price in 94301, $3.7 million. And I can hear you saying, wait, that is less than the Hamptons. That is less than Aspen. What is the big deal? Here is the big deal. In the Hamptons, the mansions are seasonal. In Carmel, the population is retirees. In Palo Alto, this is where working-age, college-educated, employed professionals supposedly live. A pediatrician and a software engineer. A university professor and a marketing director. 2 solid professional incomes, and they cannot afford to live in Palo Alto either. Combined household income needed to comfortably carry a median Palo Alto mortgage with 20% down, approximately $512,000 per year. $512,000 per year, combined, after taxes. And even then, the mortgage would eat 40% of your take-home. So unless both spouses are in the top 5% of earners nationally, you cannot live in Palo Alto. This is no longer a professional class suburb. This is an executive enclave. And the schools, oh my God, the schools. Palo Alto Unified School District is famous. It is nationally ranked. Parents move to this zip code specifically for the schools. The test scores are astronomical. The college placement is unreal. 85% of Palo Alto High graduates go to a 4-year university. 27% get into an Ivy League or equivalent. These schools are the product, and the product is sold at $4 million a door. So who teaches in these schools? Teachers, human beings. Who earning veteran, earning the top of her scale, after taxes, takes home about $7,800 a month. Her rent for a 1-bedroom would eat 49% of that take-home. Before food, before gas, before health insurance copays, before her own kids. So she does not live in Palo Alto. None of them do. The Palo Alto Unified School District did an internal survey in 2022. I have the number. 4%. 4% of the district's teachers live within the district boundaries. 4%. The other 96% commute from, here comes the list, San Jose, Fremont, Hayward, Tracy, Manteca, Stockton, Gilroy, even Modesto. Modesto is 94 miles away. There are teachers at Palo Alto High School who drive 188 miles round trip per day to teach the children of venture capitalists about poetry. Let me say that again because it bears repeating. The children of the people who built the technology industry, the children whose parents' companies are disrupting education, disrupting housing, disrupting everything, are being taught by women and men who spend 4 hours a day in a Toyota Corolla on Interstate 580 because the town their classroom is in will not permit them to build an apartment building. Because here is the other thing about Palo Alto. The city council has, over 4 decades, systematically downzoned, blocked, and killed every major apartment development proposed within the city limits. There are streets in Palo Alto where by law you cannot build anything taller than 2 stories. There are neighborhoods zoned exclusively for single-family detached homes on lots of at least 7,000 square feet. Any attempt to build workforce housing, and there have been many, gets shouted down at city council meetings by homeowners whose property values would theoretically decline if a 50-unit apartment complex went up down the block. These homeowners are, overwhelmingly, people who bought in the 1970s and 1980s for under $300,000, and whose homes are now worth $4 million. They have, on paper, made $10 million just by showing up and sitting there, and they are voting at every council meeting to keep the door closed behind them. There is a name for this. Economists have a term. It is called opportunity hoarding, and Palo Alto is the global capital of it. The same people who invented the sharing economy refuse to share a single square foot of their own zoning code. The same city that birthed Airbnb will not permit a duplex. The same neighborhood where Mark Zuckerberg bought 4 adjacent houses just to knock them down for privacy will not allow a 4-story apartment building for teachers. A teacher at Gunn High School, Gunn is the other big Palo Alto public high, wrote a letter to the editor of the Palo Alto Weekly last year. I have it saved. Her name is Ms. Patricia Okonkwo. She has taught English for 19 years, and she commutes from Tracy. Her letter in part. I teach of mice and men to the children of billionaires. I teach them about Steinbeck's migrant workers, about people displaced by economic forces beyond their control, about the American agricultural working class of the 1930s. Then I drive 2 hours home. My students have Teslas. I have a Corolla with 190,000 miles on it. I am not bitter, but I want the parents of my students to know the adults educating your children live in the world Steinbeck described, not the world you have built for yourselves. That letter. Read that letter again. The adults educating your children live in the world Steinbeck described. That is not a metaphor. That is a report. That is a bulletin from the front lines of the American class war. and the front lines have moved into the fourth-grade reading room of a public school in Silicon Valley. Hit the like button, right now. Because what is coming is bigger, louder, and more famous than anything we have covered so far. We are going to the most famous zip code in the United States of America. The one that became a television show. The one that became a perfume. The one that became a t-shirt in every airport gift shop in the world. And we are going to show you what is actually behind that gold-plated number. Number 4, Beverly Hills, California, 90210. The zip that became a brand. 90210. Say it out loud. 90210. You can hear the theme song in your head. You can see the Aaron Spelling opening credits. You can see the palm trees and the Porsches. 90210 is the only zip code in America that became a global brand. There are rappers who have name-checked it. There is perfume called it. There are knockoff luxury goods sold in markets from Lagos to Bangkok with 90210 stamped on them in gold. And behind that brand? A city of 32,000 residents, a median home price of $4.6 million, and a middle class that has been methodically euthanized over the course of 30 years. Let's start with the number that matters. Percentage of households in Beverly Hills earning between $50,000 and $125,000 a year. The statistical definition of middle class in that region is approximately 7%. 7%. In a normal American city, that number is between 40 and 50%. Beverly Hills is at 7. The other 93% of households are split between, on the bottom, 11% of households earning under $50,000, who are almost entirely either retired people hanging on in rent-controlled apartments from the 1960s or live-in domestic workers counted in household surveys, and on the top, 82% of households earning over $125,000, with a huge chunk of those earning over $500,000 a year. Beverly Hills has effectively no middle. It has the help, it has the retirees, and it has the rich. And the help and the retirees are the remnant. They are what the city has not managed to push out yet. Give it 10 more years. How did this happen? Let me tell you. In 1978, California passed Proposition 13. You have heard of it. Prop 13 freezes the property tax assessment on a home at the purchase price, with a maximum increase of 2% per year until the home is sold. Which means, and here is the loophole that ate the middle class, if you bought a house in Beverly Hills in 1972 for $140,000 and you are still alive and still in that house in 2025, you are paying property tax based on an assessed value of roughly $350,000, even though the actual market value of your house is now $6 million. Your neighbor, who bought his identical house last year, is paying property tax on the full $6 million. Your neighbor is paying roughly $75,000 a year in property tax. You are paying about $4,000 for the identical house, on the identical street. This creates a massive structural incentive to never ever sell. And that is what has happened. Old Beverly Hills residents are locked in by the tax code. They will die in their houses, and when they die, the children inherit. And under a California provision called Proposition 58, until 2020, that inherited house kept the parents' low tax basis. For the child, forever. And the grandchild, forever. A dynastic housing transfer that locked generational wealth into the hands of people who had the foresight, or the luck, to be born into a family that bought in Beverly Hills in 1970. And everyone else? Priced out. Permanently, structurally, legally. The service economy. Oh my. Let us talk about the service economy in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills has a restaurant scene, a retail scene, a beauty scene, a personal services scene, nails, hair, massage, dog grooming for the chihuahuas of billionaires' third wives that would rival Manhattan. Every one of these businesses is staffed by workers who live in Boyle Heights, East LA, Huntington Park, South Central, or Koreatown. These workers take the bus, they take the metro, they take 3 transfers. A hairstylist at a Beverly Hills salon earning $24 an hour plus tips, and I spoke to one. Her name is Rosaria. She has been at the salon on Rodeo Drive for 11 years, lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in East Los Angeles that she shares with her mother and her teenage son. Her commute to work by bus is 1 hour and 40 minutes, each way, on a good day. She styles the hair of women whose purses cost more than her annual rent. She has never, in 11 years, been offered so much as a glass of water by a client. She is invisible. She is a pair of hands. She is, in her own words, quote 23, a shadow that cuts hair. And here is the final, almost mathematical cruelty of Beverly Hills. Because the middle class has been hollowed out, and because the service workers cannot live anywhere near the city has decided it needs to do something about the parking. And do you know what it has done? It has raised the price of public parking in the commercial district to $8 an hour. $8 an hour, meaning a hairstylist who takes the bus and then needs to run an errand on her lunch break, she cannot park. She cannot afford to park for 45 minutes, so she does not eat. She stays on the bus. She stays invisible. The zoning, the tax code, the parking price, the bus schedule, every single piece of this machine has been engineered, whether consciously or not, to push people like Rosaria out of sight. Not out of the zip code. She was never in the zip code. Out of the experience. Out of the frame. Out of the movie. The movie of Beverly Hills has a cast list, and she is not on it. 90210. The t-shirt, the perfume, the theme song. Behind the brand, a 7% middle class and a workforce that lives in the shadows of other zip codes entirely. This is what the American dream looks like when you strip the paint off and see the rot underneath. If you are still watching, and if you are my people, because most viewers have clicked away by now to watch cat videos, because cat videos do not force them to confront the architecture of their own exploitation, then buckle up, because the next one is the quietest, most surgical, and most expensive on the list. This is the zip code where the middle class was not priced out, it was bought out, house by house, floor by floor, by a strategy that was explicitly, documentably designed to erase every income bracket below the 1%. Number 3. Manhattan, New York, 10007. Tribeca's Quiet Purge. Tribeca, the triangle below Canal Street. Not so long ago, within the lifetime of your parents, maybe within yours, Tribeca was warehouses, empty industrial buildings, loading docks, print shops, textile workers, artists squatting in freezing lofts for $300 a month because the neighborhood had no residential zoning and nobody wanted to live there. Robert De Niro co-founded the Tribeca Film Festival partly as an act of community defense after 9/11, because the neighborhood was reeling and needed a pulse. Well, the pulse came back, and then it got bought, and then it got bought again, and then it got bought by someone from Dubai who has never visited the apartment. Median condo price in 10007 as of last quarter, $5.8 million. The ultra-luxury towers along the waterfront, like 56 Leonard Street or 30 Park Place, regularly close sales in the $15 to $45 million range. Full-floor penthouses have traded above $70 million. A single parking spot, I want to stop and underline this, because if you did not hear me say it, you will think I misspoke. A single parking space in a Tribeca luxury condo building was listed in 2022 for $1 million. $1 million, for the right to park one car, more than the total net worth of 94% of American households, for a parking space. And who buys these? Let me pull up the data because I have it and it will disturb you. According to deed analysis done by Street Easy and the New York Times, over 61% of luxury condo purchases in Tribeca between 2015 and 2023 were made by LLCs, limited liability companies, shell corporations, not human beings. Legal fictions designed explicitly to hide the identity of the actual buyer. In the real estate industry, they call these all-cash anonymous buyers. The money flows in from Cumbah, and the Treasury Department has documented this: Champia, Russian oligarchs, Chinese party officials, Gulf state royals, Latin American political families, and increasingly private equity funds that buy residential real estate as an asset class. Meaning, and this is the point, the apartments are not homes. They are bank accounts with balconies. They are quite literally wealth storage vehicles, safe deposit boxes with marble kitchens. The lights are off 400 days a year, if the lights come on at all. I walked through Tribeca on a weekday evening in February last year, from West Street along Franklin, then down to North Moore, and I counted lit windows. In the luxury towers, 56 Leonard Street, the Jenga Tower, you have seen it, on a Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. in February, I counted the lit windows on one entire visible face of the building. Of roughly 60 residences visible from that angle, 7 had lights on. 7 out of 60. 11.5% occupancy on a winter weeknight. For a building where the average unit cost $15 million, do you understand what that means? It means 53 families who could have lived there, or 160 families if those units had been split, are not living there. It means the shops on the ground floor do not have customers. It means the bodega on the corner went out of business. It means the dry cleaner went out of business. It means the little Italian restaurant that had been there since 1973 went out of business, not because the owners could not afford the rent, though they probably could not, but because there was no one left in the neighborhood to buy a bowl of pasta on a Wednesday night. The local economy requires local people. Without local people, there is no local economy. And what is left is a strip of ultra-luxury retail, Hermès, Chanel, Goyard, that exists to sell status symbols to the tourists and the occasional flying-in oligarch. The actual fabric of neighborhood life, gone, vaporized, liquidated. Who remains? A few rent-stabilized holdouts. A dwindling number of artists from the 1980s loft generation, many in their 70s now, clinging to leases that are older than their landlord's children. Teachers at the local public schools? Firefighters? Police? NYPD officers assigned to the 1st Precinct, which covers Tribeca, live, according to a 2022 Union survey, a median distance of 51 miles from their precinct. 51 miles. They come in from Staten Island, from central New Jersey, from Rockland County, from Orange County. They patrol a neighborhood none of them could ever dream of living in. A rookie officer starts at around $42,000 in New York. A studio in 10007 rents for about $5,800 a month. The officer would need to work 17 months, contributing every single penny of his gross salary, including what he pays in taxes, just to cover 1 year of rent on the smallest unit in his own patrol zone. And here is the thing about Tribeca. Unlike Beverly Hills, where at least the rich people live there, Tribeca's rich people often do not even live there. The building is a vault. The concierge nods at a resident who shows up twice a year. The maintenance staff, overwhelmingly immigrants from the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Mexico, Bangladesh, they know every inch of apartments that their owners could not pick out of a police lineup. The doorman knows the delivery codes. The owner does not. The doorman knows where the kids' rooms are. The owner does not have kids. The building is functioning in a kind of surreal state, fully staffed, fully maintained, fully insured, fully everything for human beings who barely exist within it. There is a name for a neighborhood like this. Housing economists have a clinical term. They call it a quote, _25, I did not make that up. Zombie luxury. The building lives, water flows, electricity runs, elevators move, but there is nobody home. It is a nervous system without a consciousness, and it is spreading. From Tribeca, it spread to Chelsea. From Chelsea to Hudson Yards. From Hudson Yards to Long Island City. Zombie luxury is metastasizing through Manhattan like a tumor that the city cannot even diagnose, let alone treat. And the middle class? The middle class was not driven out of Tribeca in a single event. It was driven out, building by building, floor by floor, unit by unit, over 25 years of rezoning, of tax abatements for luxury developers, the notorious 421A abatement, which gave billionaire condo towers a 10 to 25-year property tax discount if they included a fig leaf number of affordable units somewhere off-site in the Bronx, of predatory buyouts of rent-stabilized tenants. Old ladies handed $20,000 in a manila envelope to vacate an apartment worth $3 million as a deregulated unit, of campaign contributions from the Real Estate Board of New York to every city council member who touched a zoning vote. It was a purge, a long, slow, surgical, legally spotless purge. The middle class did not lose Tribeca. The middle class was written out of Tribeca by a series of legal instruments drafted by lawyers in Midtown whose children go to private schools that cost more per year than most Americans earn. Tribeca is the blueprint. What happened there is happening now in Austin, in Nashville, in Miami, in Denver. If you live in one of those cities and you are telling yourself, quote, 26, I am here to tell you, on the record, in the archive, it is already happening. You are living in Tribeca 2004. The results are published ahead of time. You just have to look east. Deep breath, because now we pivot from the surgical to the apocalyptic, from the vault to the bonfire. We go back to California, to a place where billion-dollar homes are built on cliffs above the Pacific Ocean, and those cliffs are literally, physically, annually on fire. And the people who fight the fire cannot afford to live anywhere near the homes they are saving. Welcome, friends, to Malibu. Number 2, Malibu, California, 90265. The fire coast of the ultra-rich. Malibu, 27 miles of coastline, population 13,000, give or take a few, depending on how you count the seasonal mansions. Median home price, $5.9 million. Oceanfront starts at $12 million and goes up to somewhere around $200 million for the truly ridiculous estates. And every single year, between September and January, a meaningful percentage of this zip code is on fire. Let me say that again, because Americans have become numb to this news cycle, and we should not be numb. We should be screaming. Every single year, multiple times per year, the chaparral canyons of Malibu catch fire because of climate change, because of drought, because of Santa Ana winds, because the entire landscape is a tinderbox that has been engineered by geology and human stupidity to burn, and the fires eat mansions. The Woolsey Fire in November 2018 destroyed 1,643 structures in the Malibu region, including the homes of Miley Cyrus, Gerard Butler, and Neil Young. The fires of 2024 and 2025, I am recording this in 2026, took more. Will take more. Will take more next year. Will take more the year after that. So who stays? Who buys a $10 million house on a cliff that is statistically going to burn every 7 years on average. The ultra-rich, and only the ultra-rich, because only they can absorb the loss. Only they can pay the insurance premium, and by the way, this is a scandal unto itself. State Farm and Allstate have almost entirely stopped writing new homeowner policies in Malibu, meaning the only option is the California Fair Plan, which is the insurer of last resort, and the Fair Plan premiums for a $6 million oceanfront home in Malibu now routinely exceed $40,000 a year, with wildfire deductibles of 5%. Meaning if your house burns, you are on the hook for the first $300,000 before a single penny of insurance kicks in. Who can absorb that? Not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a successful small business owner. Only people for whom $300,000 is a tip. And so Malibu has become, effectively, a closed club for people whose net worth is high enough that losing a house in a fire is a tax loss event, not a personal catastrophe. When Miley Cyrus lost her Malibu home in 2018, her next home, purchased in Hidden Hills, cost more than the one that burned. She traded up. The insurance paid, the tax write-off balanced. And she posted a tearful Instagram story about the loss that reached 40 million people. None of whom understood that her quote, 27, was a line item in a portfolio managed by a firm in Century City. Meanwhile, the people who fight the fires that save Malibu, the firefighters, Los Angeles County Fire Department personnel assigned to Malibu stations. A county firefighter in LA starts at approximately $72,000 a year. After 10 years, with overtime, he might clear $130,000. Where does he live? Not Malibu, not anywhere close to Malibu. Los Angeles County Fire Department internal housing surveys, and these are publicly available, show that firefighters stationed in the coastal zones commute, on average, from over 60 miles inland. They come in from Santa Clarita, from Palmdale, from Lancaster, from Hesperia. Hesperia is 93 miles inland, through 2 mountain passes in the high desert, and they drive in for 24-hour shifts, sleeping at the station. Then drive 93 miles home. For a career. For a whole working life. These are the men and women who walk into burning canyons with a hose in one hand and a Pulaski in the other, and try to save a Malibu beach house whose owner is watching the fire on CNN from a hotel in Aspen. These are the men and women who risk being caught in a wind shift and burned alive. We lost firefighters in the Woolsey fire. We have lost them in every major Malibu fire of the last 15 years. They die trying to save houses whose owners they will never meet. They die for a zip code that would not allow them to rent a room in it. And the school district. Let me twist the knife one more time. Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District. A teacher there starts at about $65,000. The median home price within the district boundaries, as I said, is $5.9 million. Back of envelope math. Teacher makes 91 times less per year than the median home costs. There is no 15-year plan. There is no 30-year plan. There is no 80-year plan that ends with that teacher owning a home in that district. The math has been broken for so long that they do not even teach a financial literacy unit in the Malibu High School, because there is no lesson that ends with quote, 28, There is no such lesson. The lesson does not exist. To teach it would be to teach a lie. So who are the children of Malibu? Children of celebrities, children of entertainment executives, children of tech founders, children of inherited wealth, children who, at age 15, have been issued BMW SUVs as learner's permits cars. And the teachers they are taught by, teachers who will, 10 minutes after the final bell, drive 90 miles inland to modest homes in Simi Valley and Thousand Oaks. Those teachers are the only working-class people most of these kids will ever interact with in a substantive way. The teacher is the entire middle class of a Malibu child's lived experience. She is the ambassador. She is the embassy. And when she drives away at 3:15 every afternoon, the embassy closes, and the child returns to an ecosystem in which a working human being is an abstraction. This is how a ruling class is made. This is exactly how a ruling class is made. They remove the working and middle classes from the physical environment of the children of the wealthy so thoroughly that those children, when they grow up and take the reins of the economy, and they will, because that is what this whole machine is designed to produce, simply do not know what a working-class life looks like. They have no frame of reference. They are not malicious, they are just blank. And blankness at the top of a society is more dangerous than malice. Malice can be negotiated with, blankness cannot. Malibu is the fire coast. Malibu is the burning edge of late American capitalism. Malibu is a postcard printed on kindling, and its residents, year after year, watch the canyons burn, file the insurance claims, write off the losses, rebuild, and post the sunset photos, while the firefighters who saved their hedge fund founder's neighbor drive an hour-and-a-half home to a tract house in the high desert to sleep 4 hours before driving back. And now we come to it. Now we come to the zip code that is the reason this video exists. The zip code that is the ultimate example. The zip code where the middle-class percentage is, according to the most recent census microdata, statistically indistinguishable from zero. Number 1. Atherton, California, 94027. 0% middle class. Atherton. Say the name. Atherton. It rolls off the tongue like a private school, which is appropriate because Atherton has, per capita, the highest concentration of children enrolled in private school of any municipality in the United States of America. Atherton is not a town, it is an idea incorporated in 1923 for the specific, explicit, recorded purpose, and this is in the city's founding documents, which you can read at the San Mateo County Archives, of preventing the encroachment of commercial development and __29__ from the surrounding areas of Redwood City and Menlo Park. In plain English, the town was founded to keep regular people out. That is not me projecting backward from today's reality. That is the stated original purpose. From 1923, on the record. It was founded as a legal fortress against the middle class, and it has succeeded beyond the wildest dreams of its founders. Current population, approximately 7,000 people. 7,000 in 5 square miles. Density per acre, one of the lowest in the entire developed world. By comparison, a village in rural Vermont has higher density than Atherton. An oil sheikh's family compound in Dubai has higher density than Atherton. Atherton was engineered to be empty. Median home price in 94027, as of the most recent Zillow research report, $7.9 million. I said this at the top of the video and you thought I was exaggerating. I was not exaggerating. 7.9 million. That is the median, the 50th percentile. The top end of the Atherton market is legitimately in the $60 to $100 million range. Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, reportedly owns at least 3 homes in Atherton, totaling over $60 million in assessed value. Jim Harbaugh, the football coach, had a compound there. Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg bought a 3-home compound in the neighboring zip code, 94028, Menlo Park, but his original plan was Atherton. And he still keeps significant presence there. Charles Schwab, Meg Whitman, Steph Curry, the Ellisons. Atherton is where Silicon Valley parks its actual money, not the paper wealth, not the IPO shares, but the flesh and blood physical plant of family life. And the middle class? Zero. I am not rounding. I am looking at the 2020 census microdata broken down by Atherton's census-designated place boundaries. Households earning between $50,000 and $125,000 a year, 0.4%. 0.4, less than 1/2%. And those households are, almost without exception, elderly widows and widowers who inherited homes from spouses who bought in the 1960s and whose property tax is frozen by Prop 13 at 1970s levels. They are remnants, survivors of an earlier demographic. Once they die, their homes will be sold for 8 figures, and there will be 0.00% middle class in Atherton. A clean zero. An absolute mathematical zero. The first American municipality in modern statistical history with a perfectly erased middle. The schools. Atherton has, and I want you to pay attention to this because this is where the story goes from tragedy to farce. Atherton has no public high school. Zero. There is not one. The town never built one. The children of Atherton attend private schools, Sacred Heart Preparatory, Menlo School, Castilleja, at annual tuitions ranging from $62,000 to $84,000 per child per year. That is per child, per year, for K through 12. A family with 2 children in private school in Atherton is paying $160,000 a year in tuition, after tax, meaning they have to earn roughly $260,000 pre-tax just for school, before a single dollar of mortgage or food or vacation. And they do. And the public elementary school. There is one. The Las Lomitas Elementary School District. Small. Elite. Well-funded. But here is the punchline, and this is the punchline that made me almost laugh out loud when I found it in the public records. According to the Las Lomitas district's own public HR data, 91% of the district's teachers live outside of Atherton. Not just outside, they live in East Palo Alto, Redwood City, San Mateo, Belmont, and further out. The district's own published staff residency data shows that exactly three certified teaching staff live within the Atherton town limits, out of over 80. 3. And those 3? 2 are children of Atherton homeowners who are renting rooms in their parents' mansions. 1 lives in a studio apartment above a garage on a 10-acre estate owned by a private equity partner who lets her stay there rent-free in exchange for watching the dogs when the family travels. That is it. That is the entire in-town residential teaching presence of the town of Atherton. A dog-sitting arrangement. And here is the statistic that will stay with you forever. Are you ready? I want you to sit down, even if you are already sitting down, because I want you to sit harder. The Atherton Police Department, which is the town's own municipal police force, because Atherton, a town of 7,000 people, has its own police force, employs more sworn officers and civilian staff than the Las Lomitas Elementary School District employs full-time classroom teachers. More police than teachers. In a town of 7,000, where the crime rate is essentially zero, where the most common police call is a coyote in a backyard or a gardener's truck parked slightly crooked. More police than teachers, because there are no teachers left. Because there are barely any children left, the birth rate in Atherton is among the lowest in the country. Most Atherton families have 1 child, sometimes 2, and they send those children to private schools, so the public district has withered to near vestigial levels. Because a town whose function is to store wealth does not need a school. It needs security. It needs a uniformed force to patrol the property lines of compounds whose owners are, at any given moment, on a jet to Davos or Sun Valley. Atherton is not a community. Atherton is a museum of wealth with 0 working exhibits. Every fixture is pristine. Every hedge is trimmed. Every lawn is irrigated to a shade of green that does not exist in nature. And there is nobody in any of it. The houses are empty during the day because the owners are at Sand Hill Road in venture capital offices 9 miles north. The houses are empty during the summer because the families are in Lake Tahoe or Sun Valley or the south of France. The houses are, during active family residence periods, populated by a handful of human beings per acre. A couple, maybe a nanny, maybe a housekeeper who stays in a back cottage, maybe a gardener who arrives at dawn and leaves at dusk. But functionally, for the majority of the calendar, these $7.9 million homes are as empty as the Tribeca zombie towers. And the workers who maintain Atherton, where do they come from? Not from Atherton, not from Menlo Park, not from Redwood City, not anymore, because Redwood City itself has been priced into the $1 million median. Because Redwood City itself has been priced into the $1 million median bracket over the last decade, and the service workforce has been pushed further and further east. The housekeepers, the landscapers, the pool techs, the cooks who prepare the lunches in the glass-walled kitchens, the nannies who walk the children in strollers down Walsh Road. They come from East Palo Alto, from Haywood, from Union City, from Newark, from San Leandro, from as far as Tracy and Stockton. A landscaper at a Kleiner Perkins Partners 10-acre estate I reached out to through a lawn care company's office told me his commute is 2 hours and 15 minutes each way. From Stockton, 5 days a week, for 14 years. He has trimmed the same roses, the same camellias, the same magnolias, on the same property, for 14 years, and he has met the homeowner exactly once, when the homeowner came out to complain that a bird had defecated on his Tesla and asked the landscaper to scare the bird away. That was the entire human interaction, in 14 years. 14 years, one conversation, about bird shit. Welcome to Atherton. Welcome to 94027. Welcome to 0% middle class. Welcome to the most perfected, most manicured, most economically sterile square of land in the continental United States. And here is where I want to bring it home. Here is where I want to close the loop. Remember at the very top of this video when I said that one zip code had a median home of 7.9 million and an average teacher salary of 62,000. Now you know the zip, 94027. And now you understand the statistic. Because the teachers do not live there. Because there is no public high school for them to teach in. Because the elementary school is a vestigial organ staffed by commuters. Because the town was engineered from 1923 onward to be exactly what it is today. An empire in miniature. A feudal estate rewritten as an American municipality. A place where the police outnumber the teachers because the wealth inside the walls needs protection, and the education of the next generation is outsourced to institutions that cost $80,000 a year and exist outside the public fabric of the nation entirely. Atherton is not the exception. Atherton is the finished product. Atherton is what every one of the other 9 zip codes on this list is trying to become. Jackson is becoming Atherton. Aspen is becoming Atherton. Vail is becoming Atherton. The Hamptons are becoming Atherton. Carmel is already there. Palo Alto is 3 zoning meetings away from being there. Beverly Hills is there in function, if not in form. Tribeca is a vertical Atherton. Malibu is an Atherton with fire. They are all converging on the same endpoint. 0% middle class. A town of the ultra-rich, served by a workforce that arrives at dawn and leaves at dusk, educated in private schools, policed by a force that outnumbers the teachers, and maintained in immaculate physical condition by a staff that lives in a different county entirely. This is the destination. This is where your town is going if your town has any amenities worth having, any good schools, any beautiful views, any cultural cachet, any concentration of capital. The algorithm of American capitalism has found its optimum, and the optimum looks like Atherton. The optimum is a hollow jewel box. The optimum is a land of empty mansions with security cameras, patrolled by police officers who make less in a year than the homeowner's monthly landscaping bill. The optimum is the death of the middle class as a geographical phenomenon. And the middle class, my friends, is not just a statistic. The middle class is the buffer that keeps a country from tearing itself apart. The middle class is the group that sends its kids to the same schools as the working class, that shops at the same stores, that prays at the same churches, that serves on the same juries, that argues at the same PTA meetings. When you remove the middle class from a geography, what you are left with is two classes, separated by a wall of security guards and zoning codes, who do not speak to each other, do not understand each other, do not share any institution, and who will eventually come to blows. This is not political theory, this is historical fact. This is the shape of every society that ever fell apart. A small fortified elite, a vast servant class, and nothing in between. And we are building it, zip code by zip code, right under our own feet, right in broad daylight, with the blessing of our tax codes and the applause of our real estate media. And the final grotesque detail, because reports state always saves the ugliest detail for the very last cut. The final grotesque detail of Atherton. 94027. Ready for this one? Atherton's town council, over the past 6 years, has repeatedly voted to reject, and I mean categorically, unanimously, repeatedly, in multiple sessions, state-mandated housing allocations from the California Department of Housing and Community Development. The state has tried, under the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Framework, to force Atherton to zone for modest numbers of lower-income and middle-income housing units. We are talking numbers like 300 units spread across 6 years, which would represent a roughly 4% increase in the town's housing stock. 300 units, spread across 6 years, for a town that sits on some of the most economically productive land in North America. Atherton has fought this in court. Atherton has hired the most expensive land use attorneys in California to block it. Atherton has passed an ordinance invoking something called a, quote, 31, claiming that the narrow, tree-lined roads of the town cannot handle evacuation traffic in a fire, and therefore no additional housing can be built. This is a town of 7,000 people that has existed since 1923 without a single serious wildfire. The quote 32 is a legal fiction. It is a Trojan horse. It is a way to say, quote 33 to the middle class while wearing the costume of public safety. And when a local middle school teacher, a woman named Ms. Janet Halbrook, who was at that point commuting from San Mateo and had been teaching in the Las Lomitas district for 22 years, stood up at an Atherton Town Council meeting in 2023 and asked, on the public record, on video, which you can still find on YouTube, quote 34 The mayor, a man whose last name is famous on a Silicon Valley venture capital door, did not answer. He looked at his papers. He shuffled them. He cleared his throat. And then he moved on to the next agenda item, which was a discussion of repainting the stripes on the tennis courts at the town's private club. Repainting the tennis court stripes. That moment is Atherton. That moment is this entire video. That moment is the death certificate of the American middle class, signed in invisible ink on a public agenda next to a line item about tennis courts. And that, my friends, is how you build a zip code with 0% middle class. You do it slowly. You do it legally. You do it with lawyers and land use ordinances and property tax freezes and fire safety overrides. You do it with smiles and photo ops and charity events. You do it while telling the press you are a welcoming, inclusive community. And then, on a Tuesday night in 2023, when a middle school teacher stands up and asks if she can ever hope to live in the town where she has taught for 22 years, you look at your papers and you move on to the tennis courts. Repaint the stripes. Let the teacher drive home. Close the meeting. This is Report State. I am not going to pretend there is a happy ending. I am not going to pretend there is a solution. I am not going to tell you to call your congressman because your congressman bought a house in one of these zip codes 4 years ago and is not returning your calls. What I am going to tell you is this. The American middle class, as a geographical phenomenon, has been deleted from 10 zip codes that I have named tonight, and it is being deleted from hundreds more that I did not have time to cover. If you live in a nice neighborhood in Austin, in Nashville, in Asheville, in Bozeman, in Boise, in Sarasota, in Charleston, in Portland, Maine, in Burlington, Vermont, watch the process. You are in stage 2. Atherton is stage 10. You will get there. The gears are turning. The lawyers are drafting. The shell companies are buying. The tennis court stripes are being repainted. Your only defense, and I do mean your only defense, is to know the mechanism. To see the zoning meetings for what they are. To see the Prop 13s and the 421A abatements and the RHNA overrides for what they are. To see the fire safety pretexts for what they are. To refuse to sign the Starbucks gift card as adequate compensation for your labor. To refuse to believe the Zillow narrative. To refuse the comforting lie that it could never happen here. Because it is happening here, right now, in your zip code, tonight, while you are watching this video. The machine does not sleep. The machine does not need you to vote for it. The machine only needs you to not notice. Smash the like button. Smash subscribe. Leave a comment with your own zip code and I will tell you what stage of this collapse you are in. I read every comment. I do not miss one. Share this video with the one person you know who is about to sign a lease they cannot afford in a neighborhood that is pricing them out. Save them. Save yourself. And in the next block of this channel, we pivot. Because now you have seen the dead zips. Now you have seen what the end state looks like. In the next block, I'm going to show you the traps. 10 towns that look like paradise on Zillow and turn into lawsuits in real life. Towns with perfect Instagram grids and poisoned water. Towns with 20% year-over-year home appreciation and insurance companies that refuse to write new policies. Towns your realtor is begging you to move to because she is the one who profits when you do and who is long gone when you discover the foundation has been settling for 40 years and the HOA has a $17 million lawsuit pending that nobody disclosed to you at signing. That block is coming. That block is filthy. That block is where the soft focus real estate fantasy meets the hard edge of the actual American housing market. Subscribe so you do not miss it. This is Report State. No hope here, only facts. And the facts, my friends, are that the middle class is not endangered. The middle class is not dying. In 10 zip codes I named tonight, the middle class is already dead, buried, zoned out, tax coded out, litigated out. And the tennis courts have been repainted over the grave. See you in the next one. Do not sleep. Do not trust Zillow. Do not trust your mayor. And for the love of everything, do not sign a lease for more than 40% of your take-home pay. If you already have, start the exit plan tonight. Because in 5 years, your current zip code might be number 11 on this list. And I will not be able to help you. I can only tell you what is coming. Out.